There is a comment sitting near the top of the Furoshiki video that I have read more times than I want to admit. Someone watched a square of Japanese cloth stand in for a whole drawer of plastic wrap and bags, and then asked the fair question. Fine, but what about beeswax wraps? Aren't those actually better? It is a good question, and it deserves a straight answer instead of a sales pitch. So here are 3 things you can wrap your food and your groceries in, lined up on the kitchen counter. A cotton Furoshiki cloth, a boxed beeswax wrap, a roll of plastic cling film. I want to tell you up front how this ends, because the honest version is more useful than the suspenseful one. This is not the video where the old cloth beats everything and walks away clean. It doesn't. Each of these 3 wraps wins something the other 2 lose, and there is no clean winner. Let me say that again, because it is the whole spine of the next 20 minutes. No clean winner. The Furoshiki takes some rounds, the beeswax wrap takes one, and the plastic takes one round that neither of the others can ever touch. Before we judge anything, let me put the money on the table, because the price tag is where most of these kitchen arguments quietly cheat. A good cotton Furoshiki costs about $10 to $20 once, at a shop or online, and if you already have a large silk scarf folded in a drawer, it costs you nothing at all. That one cloth then lasts for years. A 3-pack of beeswax wraps, the kind in the little cardboard sleeve at the grocery store, runs about $18 to $23, and a set like that holds up for roughly a year of normal kitchen use before the wax wears thin. And the plastic wrap? A roll is only $3 to $5. That low number is exactly what makes it feel like the cheap, obvious choice. But a roll runs out, then you buy another one, and the box of sandwich bags next to it, and the produce bags, and it never once feels like a real expense on any single grocery trip. Rolls of wrap and boxes of bags reload in that drawer all year long, and the running total climbs quietly into real money. Set that against $20 for the cloth, spent one time. None of it costs much on any one trip to the store, and that is exactly how it gets you. So the cost round already leans toward the cloth. But cost is not the round I want in your head right now. There is exactly one job in your kitchen the Furoshiki can never do, no matter how finely it is woven or how well you learn to tie it. It is built into what the cloth actually is. We will get to that round, and when we do, the roll of plastic you are about to feel smug about is going to win it outright. Here is how I am going to judge this, out in the open, so you can argue with me in the comments. 5 rounds. Round 1 is carrying and dry wrapping, hauling groceries home, wrapping a gift, bundling a box for the mail. Round 2 is keeping food fresh in the refrigerator, the block of cheddar, the cut half of an onion, the heel of a loaf of bread. Round 3 is the wet and the greasy and the raw, a marinating chicken thigh, a bowl of leftover curry, anything that leaks through cloth. Round 4 is the cost you just heard laid out. And round 5 is disposal, what actually happens to each of these when you are finally done with it. 3 contenders, 5 rounds, and a promise that I hand each round to whoever honestly earns it. Let's start with the round the cloth was built for, and the strange reason an old public bathhouse in Japan explains how you can carry a watermelon home in nothing but a knotted scarf. Round 1 is the round the Furoshiki was built to win. Picture a plain cotton square laid flat on the counter. You set a couple of grapefruit and a boxed gift in the middle, bring 2 opposite corners up and tie them, then bring the other 2 up and tie them. And what was a flat sheet is now a bundle with a carrying handle sitting in your palm. The same square can sling a watermelon, cradle a wine bottle, or wrap a shoebox for the mail. A tote bag can only ever be a tote bag. This one cloth changes shape to fit whatever you put in it, and when the load is gone, it folds back down to something that slips into a coat pocket. The reason a scarf can carry your groceries starts with the name, and the name is stranger than you would guess. Furoshiki breaks into 2 plain words. Furo means bath, and shiki means to spread, a bath cloth. That sounds like nothing until you stand inside an Edo period public bathhouse in Japan a few hundred years ago, where a whole neighborhood shared one big bath and everyone undressed in the same changing room. People spread their own square of cloth on the floor to stand on while they dried, then wrapped their clothes and sandals inside that same cloth so they could tell their bundle apart from the identical one the next bather set down beside it. The cloth that kept your clothes from walking home on a stranger's arm is the cloth we still wrap gifts in today. The wrapping itself runs far older than the bathhouse name. The oldest surviving examples sit in a wooden storehouse at Todaiji, the great temple in Nara, cloths folded and stored there for well over 1,000 years. So this is not a craft fair novelty someone dreamed up last decade. It is one of the longest running answers to a question you still face every single week. And the cloth has been pulled back out on purpose, in living memory, by name. In 2006, Japan's Minister of the Environment, Yuriko Koike, presented what she called the Motenai Furoshiki, a wrapping cloth spun from fiber made out of recycled plastic bottles. Motenai is the Japanese word for the guilt of wasting something still useful. She was holding an old idea up as a live answer to the plastic problem on a government stage. A national environment minister put her name on a scarf. This round is not nostalgia. Now, the part that decides whether the cloth actually carries or just looks nice folded. The weight is held by the knot, and there is a right one. The traditional carrying tie is the Otsukai Musubi, which translates almost exactly to the errand knot, the tie you used when someone sent you out to fetch something. Done right, it spreads the load across all four corners instead of hanging it off one seam, which is how a thin cotton square holds several pounds of shopping without tearing through. For size, a cotton square around 28 inches on a side is the everyday workhorse, big enough for a packed lunch, a book, a couple of jars. Go up to about 35 inches, and you can wrap something as round and heavy as a watermelon and carry it one-handed. Here is the one step people get wrong, and it comes down to the knot itself, not the fold. Tie a flat square knot left over right and then right over left, so it lies flat and locks against itself. Tie a granny knot instead, the lazy version where you loop the same way twice, and it sits crooked and slips under weight, right about the time you are halfway across a parking lot. Same cloth, same groceries. One tie holds and one tie quietly lets go. So round one goes to the Furoshiki, clearly, and it is the round I would hand it every time. But look again at every job I just described. A gift, a box, a book, a melon, all of them dry. Because the honest truth about this cloth is the part its own fans skip over. It is a cloth, not a film. It does not seal anything, and anything wet or greasy soaks straight through it. Lay it in the refrigerator over a bowl of last night's dinner, and it just sits there, breathing, doing nothing to keep the food underneath it fresh. And that is exactly where the second contender walks in. The second contender is the beeswax wrap, and this is the round where the cloth has to sit down. A beeswax wrap looks like a stiff, waxy sheet of printed cotton, the kind of thing you would find folded in a drawer next to the aluminum foil. Its whole job is the one the Furoshiki cannot do. It goes into the refrigerator over the food, and it actually keeps the food underneath it fresh. Before I show you why it beats plastic at that, one quick thing. More of these forgotten, buy-once kitchen methods go up on this channel every few days, so if a cheaper kitchen is what you are after, subscribe and the next one finds you on its own. Now back to the fridge. Here is the part that sounds wrong the first time you hear it. A beeswax wrap keeps a block of cheddar fresh longer than plastic cling film does, and the reason it wins is the exact reason you would bet on it to lose. It does not seal airtight. Cheese is a living food, and it sweats, giving off a little moisture as it sits on the refrigerator shelf. Wrap it tight in plastic film, and that moisture has nowhere to go, so it pools against the surface of the cheese, turns it slick and slimy, and mold takes hold on the damp. The breathable cotton and wax does the opposite. It lets the excess moisture vent off while still blocking the cold, dry air that would harden the cheese into a cracked yellow brick. Beeswax also carries a mild natural quality that helps food keep a touch longer. And that same trick is why a beeswax wrap suits a cut sourdough loaf or half an avocado. The foods that go stale or slimy at the two opposite extremes, plastic, keeps getting wrong. So how does a plain sheet of cloth pull that off? A beeswax wrap is cotton soaked in three things: beeswax, jojoba oil, and tree resin. The wax is the heart of it, giving the cloth its cling and its moisture barrier. The tree resin adds the tack, the faint stickiness that lets an edge grab the rim of a glass bowl and stay put. And the jojoba oil keeps the whole sheet soft and foldable instead of cracking like a dried leaf every time you open it. To use it, you lay the sheet over the bowl or around the food and press it down with your warm hands for a few seconds. The heat off your palms softens the wax just enough that it molds to the curve of the bowl rim, and then it cools in place and holds the shape, a firm little seal you shaped with your own two hands. Which brings me to the one step almost everyone gets wrong, and it is the step that decides whether your wrap lasts a year or dies in a week. Do not wash a beeswax wrap in hot water and never put it in the dishwasher. The wax that does all the work starts to melt at around 145 degrees, and a single blast of hot tap water or one run through the dishwasher strips the coating clean off and leaves you holding a limp, thin rag with no cling left in it. The care is almost stubbornly simple. Cool or cold running water, a little dish soap worked in with your fingers, then hang it to air dry on the edge of the sink. And when it finally stops sticking after months of use, you do not throw it out. You lay it flat on a tray in a barely warm oven for a minute. The wax melts again and settles back down into the weave of the cotton, and the cling comes right back. A wrap that costs a few dollars and refreshes itself in your own oven is a very different animal from a roll of plastic you rebuy every single month. So round 2 goes to the beeswax wrap, cleanly, the same way round 1 went to the cloth. And that is the whole point I keep circling back to. There is no clean winner sitting on this counter. Each of these 3 is quietly the best at one job and close to useless at another. And pretending otherwise is how you end up with the wrong one in your hand. Because for everything the beeswax wrap just won, there is a line even the wax cannot cross. One kind of food you must never let it touch. And that line is exactly where the third contender, the roll of plastic everyone already has, finally takes a round of its own. So here is the one round the cloth was never going to win, the round I promised you back at the very start. It is the wet, greasy, raw round and plastic takes it clean. Think about the jobs plastic film does that neither the Furoshiki nor the beeswax wrap will go near. Wrapping a raw chicken breast before it goes in the refrigerator. Sealing a bowl of leftover curry that is still warm and swimming in oil. Covering a plate of raw salmon on the counter. A cloth soaks all of that straight through and holds on to it, and the beeswax wrap does something worse than fail here. That is the hard limit that hands plastic the whole round. A beeswax wrap must never touch raw meat or raw fish, not once. The reason is the same 145 degrees that decides everything else about this wrap. Raw chicken and raw fish carry bacteria that only die under real heat, the kind of scalding wash you would run over a cutting board. But the wax on the cloth starts to melt at around 145 degrees, so you physically cannot wash the wrap hot enough to kill what the raw protein leaves behind without ruining it. The bacteria lodge down in the weave of the cotton, under the wax, where cold water and a little dish soap can never reach them. So the same wrap that keeps cheddar fresh should stay away from the raw chicken beside it. Thin, throwaway plastic film is the right tool for that. You wrap the raw meat, you throw the film in the trash, and the problem goes out with it. Which finally lets me lay all 3 side by side on the counter and give you the honest verdict, lane by lane, the way I said I would when we started. The Furoshiki wins carrying and dry wrapping. Groceries, boxes, bundles, a wrapped gift, a load slung over your shoulder in a knot that spreads the weight across the cloth. Bought once, lasts years. The beeswax wrap wins keeping food fresh in the refrigerator. A block of cheese, a cut loaf of bread, half an avocado, a bowl with no lid. The breathable seal that quietly beats the airtight one. And plastic wins the wet, the greasy, and the raw. The cloth cannot seal and the wax cannot touch raw meat. 3 contenders on one kitchen counter, 3 rounds, 1 apiece. There is no clean winner. Cost and disposal, the last 2 of the 5 rounds, both went to the cloth as its structural rounds, which is why the honest contest was always the 3 use rounds that split 1 apiece. Standing them next to each other was never about crowning the cloth. It was about putting the right tool in the right drawer and stopping the habit of paying for the wrong one. Which brings me to the part about plastic nobody prints on the box. Plastic is not really the cheap option. That $3 to $5 roll only looks cheap the day you set it in the drawer. You already saw how it really adds up, quietly, all year long. A single roll was never the real cost. And when you are done with it, almost none of it comes back around. Cling film is too thin and too greasy for the sorting machines at the curb. It tangles in the recycling equipment. It comes coated in whatever food you wrapped, so it gets pulled out and sent to the landfill. So you rebuy it every year, and almost none of it ever comes back. The cloth does neither of those things. Buy one good cotton furoshiki, and it outlasts every roll, every wrap, and probably the drawer you store it in. And the part actually worth handing to someone else is not the cloth at all. It is the knot. A square of fabric is just fabric until somebody shows you how to tie it so it carries a real weight, and almost nobody gets taught that anymore. So tell me down in the comments, which kitchen wrap do you still rebuy the most? The one you cannot seem to quit? And did anyone ever actually teach you to wrap and carry a load without plastic? Or did you have to go find it the way you just did? Because that quiet shift, back toward the tools you buy once and keep, is the whole thing this channel is about. And the next forgotten object I want to hand you has been sitting in your kitchen replacing something the entire time.